Today is a great day in crypto. Pretty much everything is going up, but one token is going up more than the rest, and that's Aerodrome. It's the decentralized exchange on the base chain, and there is a reason for that rally. Something fundamental came out. There are news. And here are those news. Coinbase will allow for trading directly on-chain using the Aerodrome platform. So usually people on centralized exchanges can only trade a few tokens that are approved by the centralized exchange. But now with this move of Coinbase, there will be a lot of potential new users of Aerodrome that can then trade any token, not just the tokens that are listed on Coinbase directly. And so there's likely going to be a strong inflow of new users into the platform, and that's of course fueling the Aero price. Now, I've been covering Aerodrome regularly on this channel, and the videos tend to not get that much attention. They just perform like an average video. There's not a lot of hype around Aerodrome. Now, what makes Aerodrome so unique? It's standing within the Base chain. So within Base, Aerodrome is the largest decentralized exchange, and Base is a layer 2 scaling solution on top of Ethereum. So all the fees on Base are paid in Ethereum. What this also means is that there's no native Base token. If you want to bet on the Base ecosystem, on the Base blockchain, there's nothing uniquely to buy. And so many people just bought Aerodrome as a proxy. If they wanted to bet on the Base chain, they just bought Aerodrome as an extension. And Base as a chain seems to get quite nice adoption. This is the total value locked over time. It's steadily growing. It's now at an all-time high of 4.5 billion. The problem with a chart like this though is that the assets on the Base chain are heavily influenced by the Ethereum price. So when Ethereum is going up, then because many assets are directly coupled via liquidity pools to the Ethereum price, those alts go up as well to the same degree. So really a better way to look at the total value locked and to look at the adoption of the Base chain is to not measure this in US dollars, because Ethereum itself appreciated quite a bit recently. It's better to look at this measured in ETH. And here, unfortunately, we see a peak at the beginning of April of this year. So the growth of Base has halted somewhat. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Coinbase decided to enable the decentralized exchange trading. In general, crypto is all about capital flows. So wherever currently the attention is, the capital tends to move. Then over time, attention moves to other assets and the prices tend to also decline. So there is some kind of correlation here. Because many people just look at US dollar charts, the vision is somewhat blurred, right? When Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum goes up, most altcoins go up as well. But really, it's all about opportunity costs. When we buy an altcoin, we should expect more performance than just by holding, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum. We're taking on more risk by buying the altcoin, so we also should expect more return because we get risk-adjusted returns. And so I always like to look at charts like this. This is now Aerodrome relative to Ethereum, and suddenly we see somewhat of a trading range. We see where Aerodrome tends to bottom out, and recently, just 3 days ago, it bottomed at the exact same level, but it also tells us a story at what point, at least short term, Aero could turn around. What's the short-term upside potential relative to Ethereum? We are halfway through and we could appreciate by another 38% or so, relatively speaking. Now, Aerodrome offers various earning programs, and there's a way to get 152% per year on the Aero holdings. And so when we don't just look at the price, but we look at the price plus the yield, a lot of Aerodrome holders are actually quite happy with their returns. Most people are in profit. The return is declining though over time. Aerodrome is not just the largest decentralized exchange on the Base chain, it's also the largest trending token on the Base chain, if we measure this in terms of the liquidity pool size. Here are the trending tokens on Base, and Aerodrome is at number 1 with a liquidity of 75 million. In the last 24 hours, Aero got almost 700 million worth of trading volume. At number 2 is Uniswap with 600 million. The price is appreciating quickly, and that's not necessarily because many people are buying. It's just that the buyers tend to move more capital than the sellers. There were only 39% buyers versus 61% sellers, yet the price went up by 26%. The problem really is that Aerodrome is not a clean bet on Ethereum. It did lose quite a bit of market share to Uniswap. Here's now the total value locked of Aerodrome. So not of the base chain that we looked at before, but just of the Aerodrome protocol. And this is now in US dollars. And here we've got the same chart in Ethereum. It clearly peaked in October of last year and since then is shrinking quite constantly. And the speculation is that this trend will turn around once Coinbase enables trading via Aerodrome. The issue is always that the tokenomics of Aero are incredibly complex. There's staking, there's new issuance of tokens, there's also an undisclosed amount that got raised by the base ecosystem fund. And of course, the fund only invests if it also gets some allocation. But overall, the token is quite popular within crypto. We've got 633,000 holders. That's a quite large number if you compare this to other tokens of similar age. There used to be quite a lot of selling pressure due to the staking program. So when people stake their tokens, it gets artificially removed from the circulating supply. If they then unstake their tokens, that supply hits the market again. And what we see over here is the locked up Aero over time as a percent of all of Aero. But luckily, this is not going down anymore since beginning of the year. So that selling pressure is not a problem today. It's impressive how the number of holders is growing over time. So on the left side, we see the number of retail investors. On the right side, we see the number of whales. And we make this distinction by looking at minimum holding thresholds. So for the chart on the left, it has at least 1,000 Aero tokens. For the chart in the middle, it's 10,000 tokens. For the chart on the right, it's 100,000 tokens. And while retail stopped buying Aero in the last few months and is now starting to come back again, the number of whale investors went up quite consistently. And again, the question here is this potentially token unlocks and incentive programs by the project, or is this raw purchases? It's very unclear, but the whales tended to buy quite consistently, especially recently. So this is good. What's quite interesting though is that the price determination of Aero does not necessarily happen on the Aero platform itself, because most trading volume on the spot market happens on Coinbase. We had 60 million worth of trading volume here, and Aero had only 34 million. But really, the price mainly gets moved around on the perpetual futures. Here we had 106 million worth of trading volume. That's on Bybit, and 171 million on Binance. At least in the short term, the perpetual futures do have a huge impact on the price. Most of the time, people are rather bearish on Aero. So the funding rates are negative. That means the shorts have to pay the longs to bet on falling prices. Right now, though, that's not the case. Right now, there's more longs than shorts. But just have a look at how much the open interest, so the number of bets on the price, correlate with the spot price. When there's more open interest, spot tends to go up. When there's less open interest, spot tends to go down. And currently, historically, it's rather high. On a relative valuation chart to Ethereum, there seems to still be a bit upside potential. And I believe this is one of the most important charts. But there is some risk in case we do see a deleveraging on the perpetual futures. But I don't expect this to happen anytime soon. Is Aero long-term worth the additional risk versus just buying and holding Ethereum? I'm not so sure. The long-term performance isn't necessarily that great, but short-term we might see some more upside. This trading range is very convincing. The news are very convincing as well. The usage of the platform right now doesn't look too great, but there's a real chance that this could turn around once the trading actually gets enabled. So far, this is only a slow rollout to a few selected customers. Now, I do have an announcement to make. I always talk about how to bet on relative valuations, right? How some altcoins might outperform or underperform Bitcoin and Ethereum, and how those relative valuations aren't that volatile, right? We tend to see relatively clear trends, and how there's quite a bit of alpha to be made with this, right? We can outperform using those clear trends. The only issue is that for most people, this is a bit too complicated, right? You have to learn the platform, you have to learn risk management, how to adjust stop losses, etc. And so here's now the big announcement. I have launched for a small number of people to just deposit capital into a capital pool and then automatically copy trade whatever I do. The launch happened 24 hours ago for the annual subscribers of premium of this channel. And it's already going well. Of course, there might be some volatility to the downside, but currently we are 1.7% already in profit. Before that launch, I tried this out myself on a personal account. So I started with 40K, moved this to 60K within 2.5 months. And while I don't expect to get the same kinds of returns when moving more capital and when maybe luck isn't that much on our side, I still believe that the strategies we are using will yield long-term risk-adjusted positive returns. So in the early days, I did this all with borrowing and lending platforms with DeFi. Now I moved to perpetual futures, right? Bets on the price. But this relative valuation bet approach, I already do this for almost 4 years. So that's what this chart is showing, right? If I just dollar cost averaged into Bitcoin, I would have gotten this light gray line as return. But instead, I got the black line in return. And here's how I do this. I check for altcoins that have a quickly rising supply, while the demand doesn't grow at the same rate. So this is the example of Balancer. I show this very often here publicly on this channel as well. Of course, there are way more examples that I share in the closed community. But because of that token inflation, relative valuations tend to go up very, very steeply. So this is now Ethereum relative to Balancer. So we go short Balancer, or we borrow the Balancer token, right? We profit when Balancer goes down, and we go long the thing that we believe will outperform. And then we get a chart like this. It's a strategy that works for many altcoins. Just have a look at the overall altcoin unlocks over time. So how much new supply hits the market and how much capital needs to flow into the market just to keep prices stable. This here is weekly unlocks, and it tends to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars every week. Especially this week is extremely aggressive with unlocks. And so this is the return we get, but that happens because this is the actual performance of the altcoin. And this is a chart we see very, very often. Just have a look at your favorite altcoin with high unlocks relative to Bitcoin, relative to Ethereum, and you're likely going to see a chart that goes down quite consistently. Who's getting all the tokens? Who's benefiting from this? It's the founders, it's the contributors, it's the early investors. They are all dumping on retail. So when you're wondering why your altcoin portfolio tends to underperform Bitcoin all the time, it's because of that, right? It's because all those people dump on you regularly. And so that's how we make money as well. We make money when the insiders dump on retail, and most retail investors don't know how to play the game. I made a lot of tutorial videos on the topic, how to bet on relative valuations with perpetual futures, how to do proper risk management with those bets. And then also, and this is the big thing, right? How to provide capital to a capital pool so that every trade that I make automatically gets copied with your funds as well. So that something like this isn't theory, but actually becomes practice for yourself as well. You don't have to necessarily go through all of those tutorial videos and have to do active trading all the time if you don't have the time. If you do want to trade yourself, there is obviously the offer, because I do share my trades in real time as well, right? For example, here, this is the Balancer short that I announced on the 19th of July of last year. So that was over here. Since then, Balancer outperformed Ethereum by more than 116%. And so if you've got some capital, but also some time, then there's the monthly membership, right? You just sign up, you watch a few tutorial videos, and then you can copy trade whatever I do. And of course, also do additional trades besides that. If you don't have much time though, if you cannot do the active trading yourself and you're busy with maybe managing a business or a very busy job, you've got the capital, you don't have the time, then you can also automatically copy trade me. The automatic copy trading feature is available for the annual subscribers. So if you sign up for the annual premium membership, you get a bit of savings as well, but you also get access to the automatic copy trading, which again, I've just recently started. We don't know yet how this will perform, but in the last 2.5 months on my private account, it did pretty well. And very long term with borrowing and lending platforms, it also did pretty well. I can't guarantee that it will continue to work in the future, right? Prior returns are no indication of future returns, as people say. But in general, I try to get the odds in our favor. Right? When everybody dumps on retail, we can still profit from that if we set ourselves up accordingly. A link to premium should pop up directly here on the screen. Just click on that. It will lead you to the website. If it's the very first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube, or see you in premium. Cheers.